This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. As promised, we are focusing on the recent development in which William Pulte, who is the head of the Federal Home Finance Agency, has made a criminal referral to the U.S. Justice Department of New York Attorney General Letitia James. Mr. Pulte's letter of referral seems largely to be based on the research of a gentleman named Sam E. Antar. Sam Antar is a former certified public accountant who's had a very interesting career trajectory. As a former chief financial officer of Crazy Eddie, you may remember them, a major consumer electronics chain in the Northeast, Mr. Antar was a key figure in one of the decade's largest security fraud schemes. After his conviction, he paid his debt to society. Mr. Antar redirected his expertise towards forensic accounting, leveraging his firsthand knowledge of financial fraud to help combat it. He has helped government agencies, law enforcement organizations, law firms and accounting firms, and independent investment research firms ferret out fraud. He has a very lively website, whitecollarfraud.com, where he posts the actual documents that back up everything he has claimed. Sam Antar, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Thank you, Roger, for having me on the air.
So in this most recent development, as you know, among those claims is that Letitia James, only last year, August of 2023, just weeks before putting President Donald Trump on trial in the so-called valuation trial, Letitia James signed a document with the mortgage company, a sworn document, in which she attested that she would move into a Virginia property on which she was seeking a mortgage within 60 days of the execution and closing of that mortgage. There's two problems with that. If she indeed did move to Virginia, as she said she was going to, well, under New York state law and the New York state constitution, she would not be eligible to be New York State Attorney General, and actually, upon her leaving the state, the office would be immediately vacated. Or if she signed claiming that she would move but didn't move, and I think we understand that she didn't, well, then she committed fraud by signing this document. Now, she has defended herself, claiming that in a separate document, she said she wasn't going to live in the property, and she further said that the mortgage did not require her to do so. So who's right and who's wrong here? Are you right, Sam? Or do the documents deceive us, or is she lying?
She's lying, and I'll explain to you why. First of all, the sworn declaration that she had written, which was also, by the way, witnessed by Jennifer Levy, who headed the investigation into Trump, it was signed in her own office. Okay, that sworn declaration rules because that's the document that was filed with the mortgage. If there's another piece of paper, that only makes the case worse because assuming that piece of paper exists, okay, and we haven't seen it, nobody's produced it. The New York Times didn't even produce it. They said they got it. Okay, assuming that piece of paper exists, it adds to another level of inconsistent disclosures that she's made. At the end of the day, the mortgage was underwritten based upon her and her co-borrower both occupying the property. Now, she didn't occupy the property, and she claims her niece occupied the property. Still not good. Both parties had to occupy the property. That is the way the loan was underwritten, period.
Listen to Letitia James herself, because I want to make sure we get this completely right. Listen to the Attorney General.
Let me just say to all New Yorkers and to all Americans, the allegations are baseless. The allegations are nothing more than a revenge tour. And as you mentioned, my office was successful in securing a $454 million judgment against Donald Trump and others for exaggerating the value of his assets. He engaged in a pattern and practice of fraud. And the interest is accruing each and every day while the case is on appeal in the First Department. It's important that individuals know that this is nothing more than the continuation of the tour. He went after law firms, universities, immigrants, women. Thousands of federal employees right now are unemployed. Our government is in chaos and in disarray. Medicaid, Social Security, CFPB, and the list goes on and on and on.
They always have to wave that Medicaid, Social Security flag, which is a complete fraud. Donald Trump has made no proposals to cut either one of them. Sam, your reaction to that brazen lying?
Well, first of all, I had written about it months before you even contacted me, or a couple of months at least. All right? The only reason why I'm on this show is because you stumbled on my work. I have nothing to do with the Trump administration. I don't work for them. I don't get paid for them. Nobody told me what to post or what to do. I did it myself, and this is the work that I do. This is the life I have chosen. After Crazy A's, I have 25 years experience on the other side of the law. Okay, I know every trick in the book. I know every trick that's not in the book, and I also know every trick that she's thinking of doing. So this is just classic misdirection.
By the way, I do want to say to the Attorney General, you have an open invitation to appear here on the Stone Zone anytime to rebut anything that we report here. We would welcome you, and we would treat you respectfully and give you your chance to speak. In fact, maybe you want to come on with Sam Antar, and you guys could slug it out. But I've read the actual documents. The strength of your website, Sam, whitecollarfraud.com, is that you link to the actual document, the certified document. I'd also say to Jonah E. Bromwich of the New York Times, according to your story, the Attorney General's office sent you a separate mortgage application in which she did not say that she intended to move to the property, and she claims that the mortgage did not require her to do so. I would ask you to send us or post those documents publicly, because they were never notarized. They've never been filed in any place. In fact, nobody's ever seen them but you. I don't think they're legal.
I'm sorry to have interrupted you. They have no legal meaning, even if they existed.
Parents of twins, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
You need a vacation, so why not come play in LA? Fill your days with fun and let Los Angeles dazzle you with iconic landmarks, epic scenery, and stunning coastlines. And when the sun goes down, it's the perfect place to enjoy world-class dining and nightlife. Let play lead the way and soak up all this city has to offer. Start planning your LA getaway now at visitcalifornia.com.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels
feels like. All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Scentiva, available in Clorox Scentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
So, I mean, it is saying this is all just paperwork as your defense. I don't think anybody's going to buy it. By the way, I believe the reason she bought this property is because Letitia James believed that she would be Attorney General in the Kamala Harris administration. That's the reason I think she purchased this property. But Sam, let's take a step back. This is not her first exercise of mortgage fraud, is it?
No, when you do forensic accounting work, as I have done for a quarter of a century, you look for what's called a pattern of inconsistency. And in this case, Letitia James's pattern of inconsistency, dates back to 1983, which who has appeared on your show, Joel Gilbert, uncovered with the husband and wife on the mortgage, but father and daughter on the deed. So she's been doing this she's been putting out false documents for over 40 years. Now, even her most recent document, because I was on Acris doing research, that's the New York City database of deeds and property records, even her most recent mortgage says stamped 1 to 2 family. It's a 4-family house. Every single mortgage document she has filed, in New York City or New York State is false. Every single one of them misrepresent the number of units. Her building is 1 to 4 units, on the mortgage documents, but the certificate of occupancy says 5. And I think she told the New York Times, well, that was the other owner. No. You see, the certificate of occupancy is issued by the Department of Buildings. It's not an optional document that another owner has. And if she really believes that kind of bullshit, she shouldn't be the Attorney General of New York because she doesn't understand the law.
Well, the first mortgage, she was 24 years old. It appears to me what she did was to secure the mortgage using her father's balance sheet, her father's financials, claiming that he was her husband. At least that's what it says on the mortgage and the mortgage application. But then on the title, it correctly lists them as father and daughter. That's the first act of fraud. And then, as you point out, Joel Gilbert discovered that she received a HAMP loan, another federal loan for which you had to have 5 units.
4 units or less.
Right, 4 units or less. But explain to us how she's in violation there.
Okay. HAMP was a program set up for people that had fallen behind of their mortgages because of financial hardship. And she fell behind conveniently, she fell behind $30,000 on her payments, even though she was making over $150,000 a year. She fell behind. She files the HAMP application. Now, Joe looked at the HAMP application as it related to the HAMP guidelines. And guess what? The HAMP guidelines, 4 or less unit. Her building says 5. On top of that, building upon Joel's work, because he did very good research, and I commend him for it, building upon his work, I further noticed that there were handwritten notes on the HAMP documents trying to retroactively fix the unit problem by saying this building can potentially be 4 to 6 units, and handwritten notes. And these handwritten notes were belatedly written at about the time that the documents were filed. In other words, it's after all the due diligence and everything else was done. So in this case, it's deliberate. Now, people make mistakes. You make mistakes. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But you're talking about here, remember I said a pattern of irregularities, 40 years worth of false documents.
Yeah, and this the 2023 Virginia mortgage is missing from her 2023 ethics filing. She also filed no Virginia homestead exemption, which she would have filed if it was going to be her principal residence.
Right, nor did the co-owner of the property file an exemption. In fact, there was a report out in the paper that that person that's occupying the property now only started to occupy it in the last year, which is way past the requirement of the mortgage that both parties have to occupy it within 60 days.
Also, New York state law requires disclosure of any large debt unless the property is your sole residence, which James now says it is not.
Well, that's the other problem that she has. She had on that Virginia property we're talking about, she did not disclose the debt or the property. But on another Virginia property, which you and I discussed previously, she purchases a property for $130,000 or so, takes a mortgage of $109,000 or so. The property is disclosed as an investment property on a New York financial disclosures, but in 2023, 2 mortgages in excess of the value of the property were disclosed on a New York State financial disclosures. That led me to go back to the property records, and guess what I found? The mortgage that she took when she purchased the property, the $109,000 mortgage, was never filed in a New York State financial disclosures. The 2 mortgages that were in the New York State financial disclosures were never filed in the property records. Were they unrecorded mortgages? A million red flags ring out, but the most important red flag is she valued her own property at $100,000 to $150,000, and the total of the mortgages, whether they were filed or not, whether they were disclosed or not, is $510,000. Who gets it 2.5 times, 2.7 times loan to value ratio?
No one. Once again, the Attorney General says she will not be silenced, and we respect that. You have an open invitation, Madam Attorney General, to appear here on the Stone Zone with Sam Antar. You can go toe-to-toe with him on these documents that you have indisputably signed. And Jonah Bromwich with the New York Times, if you want to join us as well, that'd be great. You can perhaps post the supposed mortgage application in which she claimed she would not be moving to the property, and which she claimed that the mortgage would not require her to do so. I won't be holding my breath. Folks, you're tuned into the Stone Zone. We're talking to Sam Antar. It was Sam Antar along with veteran journalist and documentary maker Joel Gilbert, who uncovered all of the documentary evidence of serious mortgage fraud. There's a lot more to the story. We haven't gotten into sexual assault by the chief of staff of the Attorney General or the serial campaign finance fraud that's still under investigation. You're tuned into the Stone Zone. Don't miss a second. We'll be right back. We're talking to Sam E. Antar. He is the researcher and former certified public accountant who has ferreted out the serial mortgage fraud by New York Attorney General Letitia James. She attempts to, seems to me, according to the New York Times, and an incredible interview she did with Errol Lewis. If you're listening, Mr. Lewis, you should have Mr. Antar on to provide a counterpoint to the Attorney General, because I believe she told a number of lies during her interview with you.
That wasn't an interview. That was an infomercial. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It looked like she was calling in a favor, didn't it? Last time I saw Errol Lewis, he was defending the integrity of former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer. So we know how that went down. So at your own expense, you've uncovered James' undisclosed mortgages, her principal residence declaration in Virginia, which is a fraud, but you've also dug into her taxpayer-funded jet travel and her seeming abuse of taxpayer dollars for political purposes. Tell us about that.
Okay, starting at around the end of 2020, all the way through to about early 2022. I might have the date slightly wrong, okay? She took about 7 jet trips, private jet trips, with taxpayer-funded dollars, of which about 3 or 4 overlapped campaign events. Now, I foiled that information. I am waiting to see what it says. But irregardless, they occurred. There was no overlap between the campaign events and that jet travel. Now, what's interesting is that nobody else, going back to 2014, used that private jet company in New York State. In the entirety of New York State's $1 trillion spent during that period, nobody else used that private jet company. And when New York State stopped paying for a private jet, her campaign started to pay the bill.
Seems to me you might have, there's multiple problems there. I noticed on one occasion that she took and she paid for a charter jet from an aviation company that hasn't worked for any other government agency. They didn't file any flight plan, they didn't file any contract, but it happens to be on the same day that her campaign paid an Airbnb for a Martha's Vineyard beachfront condo. So it looks to me like she was junketeering on the taxpayer's dime. I want to thank our guest, Sam Antar, for joining us today. There's a lot more. This story is not over yet. We still have the question of Letitia James' cover-up of the serial sexual assaults by her chief of staff, a man named Ibrahim Khan. The victim's claims have, in fact, been substantiated in the court system, although Attorney General James has at least temporarily gotten herself dismissed from the lawsuit by the victim. I suspect you're going to see more in this realm.
The Stone Zone
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.